Welcome to Ask Dr. Mingle, the Q&A series from Mingle Health, answering your questions about quality programs and the transition to value-based care. I'm Kyle Breckel. I'm a digital marketing specialist here at Mingle Health, and I'll be hosting this episode with Dr. Dan Mingle, founder and CEO of Mingle Health. Good morning, Dr. Mingle.
Good morning, Kyle, and good day to all of you tuning in. It's great to see you again. I'm Dr. Dan Mingle, and I'm here to answer your questions to the best of my ability.
A quick reminder before we begin, you can always send your questions for Dr. Mingle in a comment on LinkedIn or YouTube, or send them directly to us via email at hello@minglehealth.com. Our first question today, Dr. Mingle, comes from Jason, and Jason says, I'm trying to better understand promoting interoperability, that is PI. July 5th was the last day to begin reporting PI for 2024. If a group did not start this, does that mean they automatically lose 25% of their MIPS score? Is there any way to still get some of it?
Great question, Jason. It really doesn't matter when you start your measurement project. It's the minimum period during which the EHR was in place and the range the date range from which the data is drawn. The system needs to be in place, and the PI metrics need to be drawn from a minimum of 180 days in the performance calendar year. Anything less than 180 days yields 0 points for PI. It doesn't matter if the 180 days is in the beginning, middle, or end of the year, as long as it's 180 days. For a couple of the measures that are a numerator and denominator, if you are going to have a better score with a particular portion of the year, it may be beneficial to choose something other than the whole year. But you're welcome to use the whole year. I think in most cases, you're going to get similar, if not exactly the same performance considering the whole year of data as that 180 days. 180 days is likely to continue to be the window, and it's to mostly help practices who are changing EHR during a year not have to deliver the whole 365 days in a data set. It gives you something less, and they're usually going to be equivalent or near equivalent scores.
So Jason has another set of questions for you today, Dr. Mingle, on the topic of MVPs, MIPS Value Pathways. So Jason asks, who are the ideal groups or prospects for MIPS Value Pathways, and why? And are there any particular specialties or sizes of groups better for MIPS Value Pathways? Are there cases where if a group were to report MVPs instead of MIPS, would that alone improve their score? And finally, are there any quantifiable ways to measure the impact of MVPs versus other methods?
Oh, very good questions, Jason. You're going to force me into a deep dive into this. Well, MVPs are ultimately going to affect all practices. Perhaps in 2029, the current proposed switchover date, or within a few years after that, Medicare intends to sunset traditional MIPS, that is MIPS as we know it now, and fully implement MVPs. And full implementation means that all practices would be required to report MVPs rather than the traditional MIPS being reported now. MVPs differ from traditional MIPS in that each MVP is a self-contained set of measures with a foundational set that includes some population health measure choices and promoting interoperability measure set, which is the same for everyone, and measures that are selectable from a focused list of quality measures and a focused list of practice improvement activities, all of which relate to the same clinical topic or specialty. So that's the main difference. Rather than choosing 6 measures from the current, from all of the available MIPS menu of measures, you'll be offered a limited set that all deal with that same clinical topic. They can be all drawn from dQMs, all drawn from MIPS CQMs, all drawn from QCDR measures, or a mixture thereof. Traditional MIPS is reported as either an individual or an entire group. That is a tax ID number billing group of NPIs or individual providers. This is intended to be a subgroup submission. Now, it can an individual will be able to choose MVPs. A small single specialty practice or any size single specialty practice will be able to choose a single MVP. But multi-specialty groups are going to be most affected by this change to MVPs. And that structure will require multi-specialty groups to break up into multiple subgroups and make multiple MVP submissions. Now, it's not yet determined whether it's going to maximally break down, what the minimum size groups are going to be, exactly how eligibility is going to be determined. Currently, MVPs are produced with a suggestion of specialties that they apply to. There's every measure in an MVP has a set of denominator eligibility specifications. It's easy to imagine that any provider having patients beyond that, usually there's a minimum number of 20 patients to make a valid submission. It's easy to imagine that Medicare may simply require that anyone who can generate a 20-patient minimum submission for 4 measures in an MVP can submit that MVP. Medicare is now soliciting comments on this issue. So if you have ideas of how it should apply, how you'd like to see it apply, this is a good time in this 2025 rulemaking cycle to get your comments submitted to Medicare to help guide their thinking in that way. I'm inclined to think that it shouldn't so much be a specialty orientation as a service line orientation. You may need multiple specialties to optimally take care of a patient for joint replacement. You might need multiple specialties to optimally care for a patient with severe lung disease or cardiac surgery requirement or after a neurological event, things like that. So I'm inclined to think that it should be more that we have eligible patients that should manage that eligibility question. Now, Medicare hasn't determined exactly when they'll make the switch. There's a proposed schedule in place. In 2024 proposed rules, they're making they're cementing the intention, or at least reaffirming the intention to make the switch around 2028, 2029, but also introducing some more with some more certainty that MVPs will be fully implemented, less certainty that the traditional MIPS will end in that year, if not, but more likely years later. And of course, in our experience in the past with programs like this that don't have a legislative mandate, it's not required by law it could be at some point for Medicare to make the switch. Those are often accompanied by multiple delays for various reasons. So it wouldn't be at all surprising if that were put off for some time. The practices most affected, as I said, are going to be multi-specialty groups. The practices least affected will be primary care, providers and single specialty groups, and the primary care practitioners within groups, within multi-specialty practices, mostly because the group submission of measures is the most common method for practices to submit if they're eligible for them, and most of them submit primary care oriented measures to get every provider in the practice qualified for their MIPS adjustments. So those primary care providers in single specialty groups or in multi-specialty groups will still be able to select, most likely, 4 measures from the group of 6 they're already in the habit of submitting. It'll affect mostly those for primary care, those multi-specialty practices in which they will no longer be leading the submission for the entire group, but doing it just for themselves with other specialties or groups of providers breaking off into other MVPs. Now, there may be some specialties that will no longer have access to measures that they have been successfully using, particularly when those measures are getting them qualified on what we call the halo effect, that it's not their performance against the patients that drives their score, it's someone else in their practice that does. Those will be those who are most affected by MVPs. Now, you ask also if there's a comparator. Well, we are in sort of a honeymoon phase with MVPs that you can choose to participate or not. And even for one, for the 2024 year, you can choose to participate as a whole group. So just like whole groups have been qualifying or have been scoring MIPS based on a single submission of 6 primary care measures, a group in 2024 can still make just an MVP submission, any MVP submission, and qualify the whole multi-specialty group on the measures of that single MVP, even if, like with the primary care measures, even if all the providers aren't contributing to that measure or to that measure set. Now that will disappear. It's supposed to disappear for the 2025 performance year. That you can still choose to participate in MVPs or not, but if you do MVPs, only the subgroup that is eligible for the MVPs can be scored on it. The rest of the group can't enjoy that score. So if the current draft schedule stays in place, that's what will happen for 2025. So whether it's good to submit MVPs or not remains a question. I don't know any way to really predict that without doing both submissions in parallel, measuring your performance based on the set of MVPs that you are qualified for. So that's a similar question to which 6 measures should you submit for traditional MIPS. You really have to make the measurement, compare it to the benchmarks, and figure out how you're going to score with a performance you're delivering today to know which is which. You could easily be doing better for your whole group using MVPs, or better for your whole group doing the measures you've always chosen, or better for your whole group with a whole different set of 6 traditional MIPS measures. So you can make some predictions based on what the benchmark scoring is and what you think you're doing, but you're not going to know until you actually build the submission and test your measurements to see where they stand. I think as you're considering MVPs, there is a publication Medicare put out with the 2025 proposed rule that just focuses on MVPs. I would suggest that you download that document and review it. They are soliciting comments on just about everything about MVPs, how you qualify, how you submit. Um, uh, they don't know yet how they're going to do it, but they're concerned that large multi-specialty groups might have to break up into 20 or more MVPs. They want to figure out how to limit that that liability. There's still going to be some providers who don't qualify for any measures. They don't provide the care. They don't have the patients qualifying in the denominators. How do they handle that? Is there a minimum size practice that will be required to do an MVP? If I'm the only doctor in a large multi-specialty group that is qualified for a certain MVP and there's no others that I qualify for, will I be required to do that, or can I just piggyback on someone else's score? Those are some of the questions being asked right now and that you should consider. And if you have some comments, some suggestions, or even just no, this won't work, or this is what I'm concerned about, this is a good time to get your comments in. I'm expecting a lot of thought by Medicare in the next 12-month cycle, or even 18 months, considering a full the rest of this 2024 rule creation year and the next 2025 rule creation year. So good luck. There's a lot less known about MVPs than are unknown, but the proposal for 2025 is to add 6 more MVPs and have what Medicare thinks is a relatively thorough set numerically for the majority of specialists out there. That in itself is stimulating some more thought about what's next and how to keep this this ball rolling.
Thank you, Jason, for the excellent questions. And our final question today came from Tony in a YouTube comment. So thank you, Tony, for leaving a comment. And Tony asks, what measure set do digital quality measures use?
Great question, Tony. Digital quality measures today is more of a concept than an established thing. Medicare has proposed a digital quality strategy, and you can search for that and find the document online and look at that at what it means. There's little, if nothing, in that set in rules at this point, except I would say for that the dichotomy, the choices you see that are described as electronic clinical quality measures, ECQMs, or MIPS CQMs. There is a natural sorting there. Electronic clinical quality measures are digital quality measures. They have to be, but they're only electronically specified. There's no other way to create them. MIPS clinical quality measures are a mixture. They can be done digitally. But they can also be done manually. Any data set that's out there can contribute to MIPS CQMs, MIPS clinical quality measures. 2024 is an important year in that it's the first time I've seen the concept of digital quality measures proposed in the rule set, and that proposal relates to the APM performance pathway, the APP. In the proposal, Medicare suggests dropping MIPS CQMs from the choices, leaving only ECQMs and Medicare CQMs. Now, Medicare CQMs is a subcategory of MIPS CQMs. Whereas MIPS CQMs have been all-payer, all-patient measures, as are ECQMs, Medicare CQMs has been introduced to ease the transition for for MSSPs particularly from the web interface into all patient quality measurement. The Medicare CQMs are proposed as a temporary option. There's no proposal for when they will disappear, but they are designed to be temporary, and therefore removing MIPS CQMs from the list implies that once Medicare CQMs are deemed to be no longer necessary, it will leave only eCQMs as an option to submit the APP measures. And justification for that is solely that this is part of Medicare's move to digital quality measures. So they're defining eCQMs in this proposed rule as only eCQMs. Now that's been in the strategy. I've at least once before commented against this, and I'll do it again with this rule. With eCQMs, you get a lot of restriction. It's a very delicate system that's all certified, all electronic, to go from documentation of care for your patients to a submittable quality score to Medicare or other stakeholders or insurers. And I think it's an important step away from the importance of just quality reporting. I think we all should be quality reporting. I think we all should be measuring our quality. I think we should all build as robust measurement systems as we can. Ultimately, it's good that those systems are digital. But to require that it all be certified and all be digital is restrictive, and I think is a better measure today of the quality or investment put into your measurement program, not so much a measure of the quality of care you're providing. So a lot of people with great quality care are not going to be able to show it if they're restricted to all electronic data sources. I don't think we are as an industry ready for that, and I think when we are, it'll be a functional thing that pushes us to be there. It shouldn't be a rule, and I think we should all be. As we are today, the quality of a MIPS submission is determined by its correctness, and MIPS qualified registries are required to analyze correctly. It's a step beyond certified. I've seen a lot of certified measurement systems that don't work terribly well. The certification does a great job of saying this is the only path. This is the path we follow to go from documentation to quality report. But again, I think it measures better the system and the investment into the system than the quality of care. So I'm not sure I answered your question. I think that digital quality measures should be eCQMs and or MIPS CQMs. For eCQMs, they're already there. For MIPS CQMs, MIPS CQMs can do everything that an eCQM can do, and use all those data sources plus others to make them pure digital quality measures. You just eliminate some of the data sources that a MIPS CQM can use. So if you agree with me, it would be a good year to put that comment in to Medicare before they go further down this path that's, I think, dysfunctional for you. So I hope this helps.
Great question, Tony, and thank you, Tony and Jason, for those questions, and thank you, Dr. Mingle, for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you, Kyle, and thanks for all of you for tuning in. I want to be helpful to you. Don't hesitate to correct or supplement my answers. Share your experience, ask your questions, ask for further clarification. We can all be smarter together.